Hello, this is going to be the third part of my video walkthrough of my Okami New Game Any Percent Route Guide for beginners. This is part of a series, so if you haven't already watched the first two videos, go ahead and do that. This part should cover everything from Taka Pass through the end of Gale Shrine, with any luck. So let's get started. We're going to start off where we left off, right in Gale Shrine. And we're going to go straight to the Waka 2 fight. Now, as you're running over here, you're going to take a relatively straight line using the outer camera. And we're going to want to put it on here. Usually you'll have to push it into place, but as you push it, it'll just go through, so you don't have to jump. You can continue using outer camera in this cave to just hug this right wall here. And we're going to jump straight into the Waka 2 trigger. Once again, we're going to skip, and the first thing we're going to do is press start and equip Snarling Beast as our main reflector. So this is a pretty rigid button sequence, so it's pretty easy to memorize the exact sequence of buttons you have to press for this. Make sure you equip it as your main weapon rather than your sub-weapon. You don't need to have a main weapon here. If you accidentally equip it as your sub-weapon, just re-equip it as your main weapon and you'll have Divine Retribution as your sub-weapon, which doesn't matter because we don't use it. Then you're going to want to use SFS, just like the Waka 1 fight. And we're going to use the same strategy we used for Waka 1, except he has more health this fight. So all you need to do is draw an extra CB or two. Other than that, the strategy is going to be the same, if not a bit easier, just thanks to the fact that there's no water to deal with. That's not my cherry bomb. Once again, we're going to be waiting for his stun animation to end before we hit him with more cherry bombs so that he doesn't armor through them. You want to mash A whenever you see one of those results screens because it makes it disappear a bit faster. At least I'm pretty sure it does, I've never actually timed it. From there, it's pretty hard to conserve dash to that fight because it just ends as soon as Waka dies. So you're just going to want to tackle and then follow this path up here. Once again, we can use outer camera here. And we're just going to take a clean line straight to the sapling. You might be wondering why fight Waka 1 or Waka 2 when we could just do a camera adventure and bloom the sapling from below. As it turns out, you cannot bloom the sapling until Waka is defeated. There's just it just won't recognize no matter what you do. So we do have to fight him here. You can jump over the fence here and be a bit faster. You can't do it from here. Interestingly, the region from which you're allowed to bloom the sapling. Oh, you can do it from here. Never mind. Well, anyway, you have to get reasonably close to the sapling before you can bloom it. So I just wanted to bring attention to that. You can't be very far from it. Like, you can't do it as soon as you leave the cave. Maybe I'll lab out exactly how close you have to be. From here, you can't actually jump down under the bridge. It won't let you. There's an invisible wall here. So as soon as you skip Isun's text after restoring the sapling, you want to jump here. The main thing that's important to note in this segment is that we're actually on a timer. As soon as you bloom the Taka sapling, it sets the daytime so that there's 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in the day. This means, and the important thing is, for the next thing we're going to do, or one of the next things we're going to do, which is go to the Cutter's house to save Chun, it has to be nighttime. So we can't really set it to night right now since we don't have Crescent. This fight's just going to be the same as what you've seen before. We can't set it to night, so we have to do things, like everything that's required of us normally, before it turns night automatically, because otherwise we'll waste time. But fortunately, we have more than enough time to do everything we need to do, and then some. So the thing is, in this segment, because we're locked to the day-night cycle, moving around, we don't have to have like perfect movement here, because as long as we're moving well on the overworld, we'll make it to the Cutter's house before nightfall by like 30 seconds or so. However, time doesn't pass when you're in a menu, when you're in a battle, when you're fighting, or when you're talking. Or well, last 2 seconds, last 2, 3, whatever. basically there's a set of things that won't advance the daytime, so we want to spend as little time doing those things as possible. Some things you can't avoid, like loading zones, but sometimes some things you can speed up, like battles and menuing, so that you're not in menus as much, or as well as like brushwork. So here, there's not going to be a trigger right away, but there is a trigger through this gate. Then we're going to want to talk to this guy, who we can actually talk to from the air before you land. We're going to want to sell all of the fish and treasures that we've been getting up till now. And then we're going to want to buy, let me double check. It should be 4 meat, 2 XMs, 2 XLs, and then 4 SFS. If we do that, we can just barely afford it. But there's a chance that, depending on the treasures you picked up and the fights you did, you won't have enough money. If that happens, it's not run over. All you need to do is just don't buy the XLs, because we can buy those later when we have more money. The things you need right now are mainly the XMs, the meat feed bags, and the SFS. So just be careful on getting those things. From here, we want to dash restore out of the menu, or out of the shopping, and again, because shopping doesn't advance daytime, try to do it quickly, because that's the only way you can lose time in this segment, is doing things that don't advance daytime, as long as you're moving reasonably well. Ideally, we want to make it to Kusa before we run out of ink, and we want to talk to her. If we make it here after we run out of ink, then we won't have ink during this fight, which means we won't be able to build dash at the end. Immediately, you want to use an XM, and then find the blue imp and DI twice. The XM by itself doesn't kill the blue imp, so we just need to do a bit extra. But it's not worth using an XL here. Yeah, messed up the dash restore. After here, Kusa's gonna talk, so we need to skip that. She takes a while. Then you want to tackle, so you can talk to her twice more. And that'll get you the canine tracker. From here, we want to go left and clear this so that we can get an extra lacquerware set. Then we can go up the hill here and we can get a incense burner from a buried chest. Again, because even though this takes a while to get movement-wise, because we're doing it all on the overworld where daytime is passing, it doesn't actually waste any time, as long as you end up at the Cutter's house on time. So, for example, we wouldn't want to use Power Slash here to break that chest, because tackling won't waste any time on the overworld, even though it might take a little longer than Power Slash. Whereas Power Slash would be freezing the day-night cycle temporarily. Then we're going to want to go down here to the right of the bridge. We're going to want to jump down and blow up this segment to reveal this dog, who is, I believe, Shin. I forget the names of the dogs and I can't read them right now. It's not too important. You don't need to know the names of the dogs. Once you feed him, which you have to use the start menu to do, you can't feed him using A because it'll talk to him. You want to skip? You want to skip during the feeding cutscene, and then you also want to skip after you get the praise. Here it's very likely you'll lose your dash because there's a lot of invisible walls to run into. So don't stress out too hard about it, because again, moving around doesn't waste time. This one we have to talk to first before we can feed them, but just tackle, feed, and then skip. From here, you're going to want to jump into Sana's trigger. This is a very short cutscene. Then we want to jump down here and bloom this curse patch. Again, just use circles to do it, just like in Pseudo Ruins. This one cutscene warps you to the top of the stairs, so it's not a big deal if you have to get closer to the curse patch. From here we're going to want to tackle backwards, and we can actually go directly to this flower, and you can tackle off of it, which sometimes will get you up to the scaffolding. It didn't work this time. And this is the final dog that we have to feed. And that's what our 4 meat feedbacks were for, so we used them all right away. So that's why I had to buy them right away. So we're going to get praise from this dog, but then we're also going to have to skip a second text, which is from Isun remarking that we fed all the dogs. And then we need to go back to Fusei so that we can fight Tay. With any luck, you'll be able to store or maintain your dash through most of this. Ugh. Oh, looks like I fell down. That's unfortunate. If you waste too much time here, then it's possible you'll miss the day-night cycle, and it'll turn night before you hit the Cutter's house. It's not a big deal, it's just wasted time. It means you were a bit too slow in this segment. But more than likely, you'll lose your time here through like bad fights and other things. This is going to be the first of 3 dogfights that we're going to be doing. All the dogfights are basically the same strategy as Waka, where we're going to be using SFS cherry bombs. The difference is the dogs have a different moveset, which is a lot harder to deal with. If he ever does... Okay, so the attack he did 3 times in this fight, which is pretty unlucky. He did a charging attack, which has that ringing sound effect. During that startup of that attack, he has super armor, and then once he finishes charging up, he'll dash at you. During the dash, he doesn't have armor, but he can hit you. So usually what you want to do is, if he starts by doing the charge attack, put a cherry bomb between you and him, and then let him run into it and you'll get hit. And jump over so you don't get hit by the attack before he blows up. However, alternatively, what you can do is you can power slash him, and that'll remove his super armor, which, if you already have a cherry bomb down, might be faster than waiting for him to finish charging the attack, which is what I did that time. The only issue is he charged it twice right away, which was pretty unlucky. So I would say this was not a very good dogfight, even though I didn't get hit. The later dogfights actually have more complex movesets, and they can be a bit harder to deal with. Once you've done this, you don't need to talk to Fusei, you can just leave the village. Based on the timing of the crow, I can say pretty confidently that we're probably going to miss the day-night cycle, just because I made some mistakes in movement and spent a bit extra time talking, but that's not a big deal. From here, if you forgot to do the fight for the Mermaid Spring earlier, you would want to do that now. Alternatively, you can deliberately do it now, but it doesn't make much of a difference. From here, you just want to jump down. You'll hit this cutscene trigger where you get a camera pan for the Cutter's house. And then we just want to jump on top. And then quickly put a bomb here, but don't fall down. If you fall in before it turns night, day and night don't pass while you're in the house, so you'll have to get back out again and then climb up on the roof again. Right, so as soon as it turns night, you want to go into the hole. And then, now that it's night, we can fight the Cutters. So you just want to drag her back here, straight left. As soon as the shadows appear on the ground, you can press start and then use your XM. Then you want to attack them both, because their death animation is normally really slow, but if you hit them, then it goes a lot faster. So that saves maybe a second or two. Then you want to build dash at the end. if you don't wait till their shadows appear, then they don't have hitboxes yet. So they won't be hit by the XM. This is Chun the bird. There's not much you can really do to speed up the segment. But there's a couple points where you can actually get in front of her, and then she'll push you forward as long as you can stay in front of her. I'm going to try and demonstrate that. Right, I stayed in front of her for a fair segment. So it's a very tiny boost, but it's the most you can do to make this segment any faster. Once you get into Sasa, it'll be a camera pan, and then there's a skippable part here. And from there, you just want to tackle forward. We're going to jump when we get to a little over these, the stone path. And then we just want to go into Sasa. Since Sasa is an interior, we can just go over here. We can restore dash through it, basically. Just like every other interior. Then we just want to talk to this guy. There's no point in keeping your dash here. We have to do a bunch of dialogue and skips, so I would just hold the fast X button with one finger, and then mash both the confirm button and the skip button with your other two thumbs. Like I'm doing now. Then we want to mash B, just like with the fishing minigame. And then here's the first digging minigame. This part is basically all memorization. You just need to know where to put the bombs, and what things you're supposed to do at what times. If you mess it up, then it's pretty easy to lose like 10-20 seconds here. But just do your best to memorize the exact sequence of things you have to do. It does take practice, so my recommendation is make a save in front of Sasa as soon as you enter, so that you can do the digging minigame as quickly as possible. The text guide explains exactly what you have to do, but you can also just review this video since I did it all correctly. After this, we're going to get Water Spout, but first there's a cutscene. Constellation's pretty simple. There's going to be more E-syntax, which we have to skip, and then we need to do this accurately. Try to be precise with it, since if you mess up, Eason will talk to you, which wastes time. From here, we can just drag straight up from center. We don't need to move it over the spot or anything. Water Spout pillars are very forgiving. They're very imprecise. And you don't need to even draw a long stroke. You can do a tiny stroke up, and it'll usually work. So you feel free to be very imprecise with Water Spout pillars. They're quite forgiving. From here, we're going to want to do a tackle jump off of the ledge. And then as soon as the camera angle changes, you can just brush and then drag to this bamboo. You'll notice that the hitbox for doing Water Spout to the bamboo is actually a lot higher than the mouth of the fountain of the bamboo. I don't know why, it's just really high up here, all the way here instead of down here where you'd expect it. So just keep that in mind. Keep in mind here that we won't have dash since we didn't store it. You can't really store it through the digging minigame, so you'll have the tackle here. Now we're going to go and fight the second of 4 dogfights. I misspoke earlier when I said 3. Here's going to be Tai, the bird, the sparrow. He's crying, and we need to talk to him. Try to avoid making him scared there by using an air tackle. Then as soon as that text finishes, brush, and just react to where the flash was just in the fraction of a second before you brush. It's not too hard. This dogfight, this is Take. He gains a new ability, which is to jump, among other things. The fights after Te are a lot more complicated. Basically, he can, as his starting move, he can do one of pretty much 2 or 3 things. I'm pretty sure he almost always does one of 2. He can either jump, in which case he'll jump basically straight to your position, a bit behind you, or he can start a charge attack, and you have to react to which based on whether you hear the ringing sound for the charge attack. If he jumps, after you use your SFS, just put a tray bomb behind you. Yeah, I used it. Sorry. Then, once again, we have to make sure he's not stunned anymore. Hit him again. give him a fraction of a second to be unstunned. And if he jumps around, not much you can do. Here he's doing a different attack. This is a combo attack. And it just takes 3 cherry bombs to hit him, or to kill him. If you're lucky, he won't do any extra attacks after the second one. It's a matter of precise timing and getting a bit lucky on his pattern. These dogfights are a big source of RNG in the run. So, but you can definitely handle them better or worse. Like if you are familiar with the situations, you can deal with RNG and barely lose time. If you're not, then you might lose like a minute on a dogfight, just to bad luck. So make sure you practice those dogfights. Fortunately, there's a lot of them in each run, so it's not hard to practice. Coming up here, there's going to be Mr. Bamboo giving us a mermaid coin. You don't have to talk to him again, he gives it to you on the first dialogue. And we're just going to use this opportunity to go straight to Agata to go get Ume. You just have to tap down or up twice, since there's only 4 options. From here, without moving, as soon as you spawn, hold the brush button and fill up Kushi's sake barrel 3 times. Then there's going to be another Susanoo Kitsugi. This one's pretty easy. These first few, you can just hold a direction, because the imps are pretty far to the side. Then you want to hold fast text. Unfortunately, this yellow imp pops up right in the center of the screen, so you have to tap to either side first before you can do the power slash, or it won't recognize. As soon as you power slash it, you can skip, and then you can skip again for Isun's text. From here, we're just going to jump straight down here. Be careful that you don't run into one of these guys. It'll waste a bunch of time. We're going to probably want to pick up this particular bud, because this has an extra SFS that we can use. We're going to need a bunch of them later. If you're lucky, you won't have to swim there, but otherwise just try to get close to Kokari, then tackle and talk to him, then skip. And we need to do confirm mashing. From here, the fishing is the same as before, just hold fast text and do short fishing lines. And then mash all of the face buttons. I will remark the crawfish is actually the most valuable fish. It's 500 yen if I remember correctly. But it's one of the big fish shadows, not one of the small ones, so... You can't. This can't be a crawfish, for example. Because it's a small fish shadow. Then for the last fish, the Whopper, this one's going to take 2 power slashes. So make sure you're prepared for that. Really? Interesting. Yeah, no mistake. You're not supposed to mash start there. After this, we mash start to skip the cutscene. This cutscene. Then we're going to want to do this constellation. This is for Yomigami for Crescent. Eh, really? I am getting called out by the game. Okay. Well, with any luck, you'll get it first try. Then just hold fast text, because you can't skip this part, and draw it like that. You can be very lazy with Crescent, because the recognition on it is very forgiving. As long as you, like, scroll to down left, it'll usually work. Here's Ume. Ume has basically one extra ability, if I remember correctly, which is to dig holes. But otherwise, we're going to handle it the same way. He jumped, so we're going to put a cherry bomb behind us. hit. If he ever starts digging, you can just do a Cherry Bomb on him. I don't know why I'm messing it up. Really? Well, whatever. That works too. So you can see I'm getting not the best luck on these dogfights, but I'm also making some mistakes, like messing up my cherry bombs, which makes them a bit worse. Yeah. From here, we're going to want to go to the merchant. Be careful to avoid these demon scrolls because they're aggressive since it's nighttime. Then we're going to want to sell everything that we just got, so the fish and any treasures we have from the Kusa. And we're going to want to buy 2 gold dust, 5 mermaid coins, or 3 mermaid coins, sorry, and 2 XMs. If you can't afford 2, that's fine, like we can't right now. We're just going to buy the other XM later. We're going to want to jump in here and use our next one of these. And go to Shinshu. When you get here, Isun's gonna complain at you. Just say no, use the second option basically. What happens is, because we did lily pad skip, Isun still hasn't cleared his flag that says we explored around Shinshu Field. Here you're gonna want to tackle into this trigger, because for some reason being physically lower makes this cutscene start faster. Don't understand why. But make sure you're not in the air for that, at least not too high in the air. From here, we want to talk to Hayabusa here. We have to talk to him twice, because the first time he's going to tell us off. And we're going to handle this dogfight, this final dogfight, just like the rest. Right away, we're going to see that he jumped. So we can use an SFS and put a cherry bomb behind us. Mess it up. That should take it. Sometimes you can deliberately get buried in the holes because it'll bait the dog to get close to you. But ideally, you would take him out with 3 solid cherry bombs right at the start. From here, we're just going to leave Kamiki. This is a bit of a detour for us, so we're just going to get straight out of here. And we're going to go back to the mermaid pool so that we can go back to Kusa. Oh, turn day. So you can just do down twice or up twice and it'll get you to Taka Pass. Unfortunately we can't warp straight to Kusa, so we have to do this bit of a detour. Otherwise, we're just going to take a straight clean line. The purpose of all of this is so that we can get the Satomi power orbs, which we need to be able to enter the Gale Shrine. and we'll need Whirlwind later. It's a hard requirement. So there's nothing we can really do to skip this dog quest. Kusa is going to be in her home, so we'll just dash right in. Talking to Kusa is actually an auto stop, so we can just talk to her, and then we only need to talk to her once, fortunately, and that gets you the power orbs, so there's no need to talk to her twice. Once again, we can restore dash here, and get it back, and we're just going to go straight to Gale Shrine. Skip Susano's text right away. Then we're going to jump into Yatsu's text, and we have to skip him 3 times because his text takes place in a few different stages. Because he has to introduce himself, then tell us about the door, then recognize that we have the power orbs already. It's weird. We're going to want to jump through here for this camera pan. Nothing you can do to skip this as far as I'm aware. And then we're just going to go to the right. We have to go right here first so that we can get the key for the first lockjaw. This is going to be a fight with a new enemy, a Chimera. The strategy for this one's quite simple. We're just going to spam cherry bombs at it. Don't even need SFS. Now, when you hit it the second time, it's going to do a sort of counterattack where it spews water. Be careful to avoid that. It's based on, like, it'll target your range, like your radial distance from the Chimera. So just, like, move away or towards it if you're, whether you're close or far away to start with. Nothing you can do to skip this, but you can actually grab the key while you're dashing by pressing X. So you can just do a dash restore and then grab the key on the way out. From here we're going to dash down the stairs and over this bridge here. You can mess around with the camera if you want, but nothing you can really do to make this faster. If you want, you can let go of the key, and if you do it early enough, it'll respawn in your mouth before you get here. Regardless, we just want to bring it to this lockjaw and then get into the elevator. Draw a cherry bomb right in the center. Be careful about it, because pushing it around takes time. And then leave. And there's going to be a blue scroll here, which is literally just a repeat. So another Chimera fight. So you can see I'm moving away from the Chimera after the second cherry bomb hits, just to make sure. Also, because killing an enemy with a cherry bomb spreads their money around, you'll want to dash in a big circle to make sure you pick up as much money as possible. The max you can get from both of the Chimera is 600 yen. So there I missed one of the yen. It probably flew out of bounds. So here we can drop this key. Like I said, it'll respawn in your mouth. It just looks funny when it bounces around the elevator, so I like to do that. So you can already see it's back in Nami's mouth. We just need to hit this elevator twice. Unfortunately, the elevator doesn't stay at the level you leave it at for some reason. And with any luck, you can conserve dash through here, but it's rather difficult. Yeah, I messed it up. Don't want to get hit by the chest. If you get lit on fire in general, just tackle. Starting a dash will remove fire from you, and it's the only way as far as I'm aware. Same thing applies if you attack in battle. It'll also remove fire. We're just going to take a clean line up here, and wait for this camera pan to finish so Isun will talk. Then the pattern for the Cursed Wind is always the same. You don't have to directly overlay the pattern it shows you, you just have to do the corresponding anti-pattern. This constellation is pretty easy. We're just gonna skip it again, and then unfortunately we have to fast text through this, but we can't skip it. Just hold brush, and then prepare for to do a loop this way. I like to give the two variations of Gale Storm names. So the first one, the one I just did, is a loop, and the one I did earlier is a spiral. Spirals, you have to draw them pretty big for them to recognize properly, as far as I'm aware. But loops you can do very tiny and they'll still work. They just have to have a tail in both directions. Coming up here, we're going to be passing by the burning chest again, and Isun's going to talk about it unless we've already opened it. So we need to do a Gale Storm and a Power Slash in order to open it, and that'll skip Isun talking about it. Then we just need to jump down the elevator and leave. And here, coming up, we're going to want to avoid a camera pan. The trigger for it is like right here, so we want to like get on the elevator and then not go any further. And then we're going to do a loop left. For some reason, the sliding of this thing, this bridge, it'll actually move you towards the center, which means it's possible to, if you don't start moving outward to counteract it, you'll get dragged into the cutscene trigger that's over there, which we want to avoid. So just make sure you're stepping slowly outward to avoid that. From here, we're going to want to jump up here and bind to this flower. This will start a cutscene trigger, and then there's a few ways you can handle this room from here. If you want to be a bit faster and a bit precise, you can do this, which I want to demonstrate. It's just needlessly precise. Yeah. Okay, I'm not having good luck with this. Whatever. Okay, let's not do that. Basically, if you do tackle jumps, okay, there we go. You can get over here. The alternative is to use Gale Storm to raise these banners, and then you jump across them. The thing is, like, the dimensions of the platforms they create is very unintuitive. It doesn't resemble the shape of the banners at all. So it's very easy to fall off of them because you can't see exactly where you're supposed to be stepping. And you have to be relatively quick because they fall down. So practice whichever method you prefer. Here we're going to get this XS. We do need this because we'll be using it for the boss fight that's right up ahead. If you're precise here, you can get through with only 2 Gale Storms. You can see I just missed it there. Actually, I just got through. So try to get over. And now we're going to be going into the Crimson Helm fight. We don't need to jump over this gold gate, so this is your first actual save in the run, technically. So if you die to the Crimson Helm, you won't lose very much time. But if you died any earlier than this, you would have to go right back to the beginning, and you may as well reset. We're just going to skip this again. And then this we can skip too as soon as Isun starts talking. As soon as the Crimson Helm fight starts, we're going to be using our menu. So immediately, we're going to use an XS, which is going to be the first item in our loop. Then, as soon as his armor's off, we have to use an XM and then our 2 XLs. Which, if you only got 1 XM, you can just mash A through this. And then we need to combo him with Power Slashes and Divine Instrument attacks to kill him in 1 cycle. If you're too slow, then you'll have to go for another cycle, which is rather slow. The fastest way to break his armor without an XS is Cherry Bomb, so keep that in mind. From here, it's another QTE. Unfortunately, these heads will actually move during the brush, so it's hard to give exact guidelines on where you need to put your brush to kill them as quickly as possible. Here we can then just do 3 tiny Gale Storms. as soon as the third one hits, we can press skip. And once again, we don't want to save here. From there, you'll be teleported to the entrance of Gale Shrine. You can skip again to skip Vise's text. And you're just going to want to head out. Isun will talk here if you defeated Crimson Helm when you leave Gale Shrine. So just skip that. And because Gale Shrine's a separate area from Kusa Village, we can't restore a dash. If you didn't already get 2 XMs in Agata, you're going to want to get one of them right now on your way out of Kusa Village. So I'm just going to show that really quick, since that's what happened to us. Otherwise, we're leaving Kusa the same way we left before. And we're going to go to the Mermaid Spring this time. You shouldn't have anything to sell here, because we already sold all our treasures, so just buy an XM. We don't really have enough money to like skip a later shopping trip by buying things early, so just buy one and leave. Alright, so we covered all of the content I wanted to cover, so I think I'm going to leave it off here. If you have any questions, as I always say, you can ask in the comments on my Twitter or in the Okami Discord, all linked in the description. And also, don't be afraid to consult the text version of this guide, which will also be linked, for anything that you didn't quite catch based on the video description. Ciao.